Well, hello and welcome everyone to our Instruct webinar on how Google Cloud uses Instruct to showcase its products. My name is Deborah Burton and I'm the CEO of Instruct, and I'm so glad you're able to join us. But before we get started, I want you to know the webinar is being recorded. Submit your questions at any time and we'll do a Q&A at the end of the webinar. We'll make sure that you get a link to the slides and the recording. They'll be available to you shortly after the webinar event. I am so thrilled to be joined by our guest presenters today, Brent Schaefer and Martin Varela, developer, programmer, engineers from Google Inc. Hello, gents. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, we're doing great. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so pleased that you're here. Why don't you take a moment to just introduce yourself to the audience? Brent, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Brent Schaefer. I'm a developer programs engineer on Google Cloud. Been working at Google for almost 5 years, and you may not have heard of a developer programs engineer, but what it means is that we're engineers, but we work typically for our developers who are our customers and help them integrate with our platform. We work on open source libraries, so I work on a lot of GitHub projects like client libraries, tutorials, other things like that.
And I'm Martin Varela. I'm also a developer programs engineer, originally from Argentina. I've been at Google for about 7 years now. Wear a lot of different hats. Recently, about a year ago, moved as a developer programs engineer, similar to Brent, but I mostly work with internal infrastructure to help other developers engineers to do their job better.
Well, you know, I'm so pleased to have both of you here. And you're right. When we were looking at developer, programmers, engineer, I kind of said, I need to ask those gents exactly what that means. So thank you for taking us through that. What we're going to do is I'm going to quickly go through the agenda for what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to spend just a couple of slides talking about what Instruct is. And then we're going to talk about, the important part of this entire event is how Google Cloud uses the Instruct platform to showcase your products. We're going to spend some time talking about the arcade experience on the Instruct platform, and there's absolutely going to be time for Q&A. So let me quickly take you through about Instruct. Instruct is a Xavier Group company, and what we are doing and what we have done is we're building a modern, challenge-driven online learning platform that really helps organizations be able to upskill and reskill their IT engineers in this digital world that we're living in today. So what we believe in is that you have to change the face of learning, and we do that by providing real technology and real tools that allow IT engineers and tech people that want to learn a new tool or a new technology the ability to do it. And we do it in a challenge-driven way. We really look at quality without compromise. We build premium content that's powered by our industry-leading business units, folks like our Go Data-Driven Organization business unit that focuses on everything from data science, AI, and machine learning. We work with two of our business units, one focusing Binks on cloud, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, and also our Instruqt business unit that looks at Azure DevOps, Microsoft Cloud. We work with our Xavier DevOps business unit and also our Xavier Security business unit because we see these are the areas that many enterprise organizations are looking to have content in a different challenge-driven way to teach their people and upskill them for all things happening in the digital enterprise. So being a modern IT learning platform, we focus on gamification, micro-learning that actually helps engage learners in real-world scenarios using real technology and infrastructure. We do this by actually using bite-sized content for modern learners. We're really looking at a cost-effective solution for them that they can quickly get in, learn new technology so that when they go back to their offices, they're in a position to use it. So we immerse them in real-world technology and a sandboxing environment that challenges to do by actually learning. So with that, we're going to talk a bit about how Google Cloud uses Instruct to showcase its products. So I'm so happy to have both of you here to talk about that today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to show a short video of Google Cloud Next and the arcades that we use.
Yeah, so here we have the Instruqt Arcade machines that we customized for Google Cloud Next.
I could see these machines being in like every student union across the country and having like week-long competitions where they have to be on these machines.
You want to dominate those leaderboards, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I have to practice harder on Kubernetes.
And how was it?
It was fantastic. I made number 10.
Oh yeah? Did you learn something or?
Definitely, yeah. I'm definitely gonna, I took one of the stickers and I'm gonna continue this when I'm back home.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, tried other tracks.
Yeah, oh sure.
Gents, tell me, was that the first time you saw that video?
Oh no, we saw it as soon as it was posted on Twitter about a year ago, right after the conference.
Many times.
And we were at
Exactly.
the conference. Yeah, we lived it. So yeah, what you saw was the first run that we did on the Instruct Arcade machines, and then we ended up doing many more because that went so well. So we ended up having those arcade machines at 20 plus global events. We hosted them at conferences that were on 5 different continents, and we ended up translating them into 6 different languages so that we could have them in the native languages of the conferences that we were at.
Yeah, normally something between 2 and 7 machines per event, I think.
Yeah, we had about it was, maybe a little logistically tricky sometime to get the machines over there. So we only had 2 at a few events, but yeah, we were able to get them at a ton of different conferences. And yeah, if you go to the next slide, you'll see a time-lapse video of the Shanghai conference. We only had 2 machines at that one, but they experienced pretty much constant usage, and multiple attendees would kind of crowd around a single machine and work together on a game, which was really fun to see.
Oh, that is fun to take a look at how they're actually always busy. So it was pretty busy there the whole time.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so to speak to the retro arcade experience, I think that was definitely a draw. The attendees would see the machines, the arcade machines, and be kind of really curious about what was going on. So that kind of got them in the door. And then from there, it was a matter of making sure that the challenges themselves were interesting and
helping folks progress in the games.
Yeah, to keep them engaged and involved.
Maybe if you go to the next slide, we can go through or talk a little bit more about one of the most popular games that we had, about BigQuery. If you know what BigQuery is one of our analytics solutions. This game basically had 3 parts. The first part was about how a simple, very easy to get engaged folks into the games, a very basic query, like challenge them on doing a quick query on one of our public data sets. And then the next two challenges or the next two levels were about creating your own data set and your own table and importing some data. And finally, the last part was kind of merging these two parts into one and combining or joining these tables, a public data set, or how can you join a public data set with your own data and kind of enhance and get better answers out of that.
And as you can see from the screenshot of the challenge here, we took steps to make sure that it was easier for anybody to kind of jump in, even if they weren't a BigQuery expert, by providing hints. We have help and hint commands so that they could get additional help getting through the challenge if they needed it.
In case they got stuck, yeah.
Great. So you had a lot of engagement. You had a lot of engagement with folks actually trying this particular BigQuery game at the event.
Oh yeah, totally. This was one of the 5, probably the most popular. I don't know if most people knew how to use BigQuery, but it was definitely very engaging to see visitors and users start using and hands-on our products.
Yeah, we had we kind of custom built a game for each of our products, and we showcased 5 different products that kind of came from different areas of Google Cloud. So one of them was Google Kubernetes Engine, which is a compute product for hosting your application. We also had Cloud Functions. We had one for our machine learning APIs, things that recognize images and videos and tags like that.
And finally, cloud storage.
And then cloud storage. Yeah, we had one on cloud storage. So we had everything, games for products that ranged across the board. You can go to the next slide.
How do you go about, oh, sorry, just a quick question. How do you go about, determining which one, because you have so much amazing content, how do you decide which ones to actually, choose for an event like that?
Yeah, so it was partially our decision, but also we got feedback from some of the marketing team on which products they wanted to emphasize. So, it was kind of a collaborative effort. Certain products we wanted to showcase at Cloud Next. For instance, if a product was being announced, we wanted to have a game for that so that users could take away what they heard at a keynote and then come to the games and then, oh, I just heard about that. There was actually an interesting trend we saw in Shanghai. The keynote on the second morning was about machine learning, and then that day the number of games played on the machine learning game skyrocketed. So yeah, there was definitely a nice a way to engage users on a specific topic right after they learned about it, which was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Great, thanks. Next slide, base container. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, so just one of the, maybe this is a little more technical, but because Instruct is built on top of Docker containers, it made it very easy for us to do customizations and have continuity across all of our games. So one of the things we found was that users would type specific commands like help or hint or exit or answer. So we were able to implement those in a base Docker container. And then each of our games were built on a custom container that extended the base container so that all of those games could function in the same way, again, for continuity. Other things that we had were the way that the assignments were printed out at the beginning of each challenge and the instructions that were at the bottom of that assignment. So the base container was really nice for continuity like that. And then also for translation, which we'll talk about on the next slide.
Okay. That's a cute dog, by the way. I mean, is that somebody's real pup?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's my roommate's dog.
Oh, what a beauty. Translations.
So one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, that was really great about this platform is we were able to translate it into 6 languages, and we could have kept going. It was no problem at all to add a language. And we kept a single container image for each game and also a single code base for each game. We didn't have to copy the whole code base over. And this was done through creating a spreadsheet. An example screenshot is here of that spreadsheet where each row is a language and each column is a language and each row is a string we wanted to translate. And through the base containers and the Instruct platform, we were able to print off those at runtime in the games for the language that you wanted for that game.
Okay, fantastic.
And this was great because we were able to have our games localized for the countries that they were playing in. So even if English was a language that was spoken there, it's still obviously much more attractive to those developers if we were able to provide it in their native language.
Yeah, of course. Everyone loves having their own local language version, even if they are proficient in English. So,
right.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's all for that slide.
Okay. So you have some statistics here. Wow.
So the picture here, you can see another thing that a story that was kind of fun is when we brought the arcade machines to Shanghai, they got caught up in customs for quite a bit longer than we expected. So we didn't have them for a day of the conference, but luckily we were able to use Chromebooks to host the games instead. And that's what you can see in this picture. And that was a really big advantage because otherwise there would have been a whole day of the conference that the users our attendees wouldn't have been able to play the games. And even with this kind of setup, obviously the retro arcade experience is a much more exciting and fun and attractive experience, but the nature of the games being able to provide valuable content to our users is still there in this kind of environment. And we still received a lot of engagement from this setup. So that's just speaking to one of the advantages of Instruct also is that the games can be played in the browser when the users, as you heard in that video, when attendee goes home, they can play it. But also if you want to set it up on a Chromebook, it also works really great.
Yeah, and maybe talking a little bit more about the stats and how we built our own custom stats system, even though Instruct has some default made by Instruct dashboards and charts to read through the data and usage data from the games. What we needed some extra enhancement again, and using the Instruct's API, we were able to extract that raw data of like usage for each event and kind of enhance it with things like grouping by event or by region that we wanted, whenever we wanted to answer questions that we weren't able with those default graphs. With our enhanced and internal information, we were able to answer those. And some stats about that, if you can see here, in the last year, we've been using Instruct a lot, 400 hours of playtime in total, more than 4,000 games started, unique starts of games, with a pretty good engagement, about 10 minutes average per game. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, that's impressive. That really is impressive. The number of games started and the playtime hours and the engagement. I mean, I think that's one of the things, that's that bite-sized learning. People can go in and they can get a feel for a product, a real product and a real tool. That's one of the things that we're really proud about from the Instruct platform. And I love the fact that you've been using it and seeing that from your users at the events that you're going to.
Yep.
Yeah, we spent, a lot of time trying to make sure that the games were very approachable for anybody from a expert level to a first-time non-technical attendee, and we saw that multiple times. You know, a product manager or a sales representative would come over and play the games, and they'd be intimidated at first, maybe, but they even they were able to get involved, or at least come away with questions to ask about the product.
Right. And that's exactly what you want, right? You want that type of engagement so that at least they ask the question of, you know, tell me more about this, or how do I learn more about this? I think that's a really great way to engage an audience. So
yeah, it's great.
Great work there.
If you have a tutorial, you know, you're kind of selecting a single level, either a beginner, intermediate, or expert level at what that tutorial will accomplish. But with these games, you know, a beginner can learn from the challenges, and an expert can, you know, confirm their superiority or whatever, their dominance, you know, at a particular topic. And so yeah, you saw a broad level,
and then
or range,
brag about it in the leaderboard.
And brag about it in the leaderboard, exactly. So it's cool to see both types.
I think everybody likes to have bragging rights, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, some takeaways. If I were to ask, you know, both of you, of the 4 that you see here, what are the ones that you felt stood out the most in terms of engagement among the folks that were using the arcades at your events? What were the ones that you felt were really the most significant?
I think that based on what we just said, reiterating over that, challenge-driven learning is very effective. We've seen people having fun and learning at the same time. What I love the most about these events, or seeing people using the Instruct Arcade machines, was that they were not isolated and trying to win the game by themselves. Normally, we've seen folks gathering around and looking over each other's shoulder, trying to help them, like giving tips about how to progress in the game, or even trying to learn out of others. So I've seen a lot of engagement using this.
Yeah, and as we talked about earlier with the machines, they really provide an X factor for the conferences, because, you know, a lot of these engineers or attendees, rather, a lot of these attendees are kind of, they're consuming all day, and so this is when they see the arcades, they're like, oh, this is something that I can actually interact with, which is really, really cool. I think you know, a lot of these conferences are kind of more you know, whatever, teaching heavy or presentation heavy, and so it's nice to break that up with something like an arcade machine. And it was proven to us that this is the case just by the amount of interest there always seemed to be once we set out one of these arcade machines. So stand out from the crowd.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
also getting out of those keynotes that you're only hearing and learning about the products and just having fun for a little bit. I think it's very nice. I'd say that talking about these keys takeaways, standing out from the crowd is also, I've seen that a lot. Like, I've seen booths that were kind of empty while the Instruct machines were like always full, always people trying to, like, queuing up. We've seen queues, like people waiting in line to play these games or and learn something. So I think that they definitely stand out of the crowd.
Yeah, no, all the points you make, it's really great to hear, because, you know, when we designed the Instruct platform, that's exactly what we were trying to do. We're trying to put together a modern, you know, challenge-driven way of learning that really speaks to people wanting to learn, wanting to think outside the box and do things differently. There's a whole generation of folks that grew up on these mobile devices, that I look at my grandchildren, for example, that could navigate when they were 2 and 3 years old, the internet, and find YouTube and Dora the Explorer. You know, I mean, it's just that the way that we learn has changed over time. And I believe that the way that we provide learning solutions is also very important. I'm really, really thankful for the opportunity to speak to both of you and get your input on how you've used the Instruqt Arcades at your environments and how you showcase new technologies and the learnings from that. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, it's been really fun, both developing and then playing the games ourselves.
Absolutely, and that's what it should be about, developing and playing and having fun and bringing additional value. Now, I know we have some questions that are coming up, so I'd like to invite the audience to please get your questions in. We're going to take a moment and pull up the questions that we have and have an opportunity to speak to Brant and Martin about those. So if we can get the questions. Great. Okay. We have a question from Thomas. And he's asking the question, are these games competitive? If so, do you find it motivating or intimidating for visitors to take part in them?
Yeah.
Who's going to take that one?
I think we can both talk about it. I'll just kick it off real quick and just say that I would say that the games, they're not necessarily competitive. I think they might be self-competitive in the sense that the person playing the game is driven to solve the problem. It's kind of like a puzzle. You know, each challenge is a puzzle, and they want to solve it and be correct. And then the competitive aspect, the leaderboard at the end is just an extra bonus to make someone feel proud of what they were able to accomplish. And you know, if they're an expert, it's a little bit of a proof that they know the subject matter. Yeah. So I'd say that most of the competitive aspect of the games is just kind of, you know, like self-driven. And so it wasn't, you know, it's not super competitive in a good way.
Yeah, I've seen mostly this generating motivation more than intimidate. Even though there are folks that maybe don't like, I remember being like there trying to like help folks, and sometimes I would get someone like intimidated by me trying to approach and help them. They would want to solve the game by themselves, but mostly were people motivated. Even seeing like they replaying the game a few times until they get it done, or getting up in the leaderboard, of course. So yeah, I think that the competition was good and was inviting people learn more and get motivated to progress in the game.
Yeah, you definitely saw people would want, if they either lost the game before they were able to complete all the challenges, or if they completed all the challenges and felt like they could do it better, you would see them replay the game, which was really fun.
Yeah. Oh, great. Fantastic. So I have a question here from Nicole. She says, I see the value of using gamification to engage attendees, but how do you ensure that it's not taking away from the other activities, sessions, and exhibition that you have planned for an event?
I guess that I don't think that that's bad completely. Like getting people away from the main. First of all, like at least the events that we've been at, they're all multi-track. It's not that there's one stream of like you have to be here. It's like choose your own adventure, choose your own thing. What do you want to learn? And sometimes what I've seen with the arcade machines is that it was a good time to like learn something new or iterate on something that you already know and learn something more, but at the same time have fun and get distracted. Like there's a lot of like learning and listening to this in this type of events. So a time to like have fun and maybe interact with someone else that you don't know and learning something by hands-on a product. It's not necessarily something bad, but something good, something to relax and give you more energy to continue through the event.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of people come to these conferences to have fun. Obviously, they want to learn too, but they also want to have a good time. They travel a long way. They're sitting in sessions for hours at a time. So, I mean, if anything, I think more things, at least from the conferences that I've personally brought these arcade machines to, if anything, I think we need more things like this arcade at our conferences. And I assume that goes in general for tech related conferences. You know, we're typically really learning heavy and not as much fun heavy. So yeah, I agree with Martin. You know, any distraction is a good thing.
Yeah, especially if they're continuing to learn and continue to have a better understanding of your products. Absolutely, that makes so much sense.
Or meet
I
new
have a
people.
question. Or meeting new people while you're learning, meeting new people. Yeah, dynamic environment. Love that. So Marcus has sent in a question. He says, I'm interested to learn if you see gamification adds to the community feeling and networking among the visitors at your event.
Want to kick
We
that
kind
off?
of touched on that a lot already.
We already touched on it, yeah, but there's definitely watching people collaborate on a single game was one of the coolest things to see. You know, it wasn't always the case, but a lot of times, you know, friends would show up at the arcade machines together and kind of work through the challenges together. And then additionally to that, we also had many attendees come to whoever was staffing the arcades, like myself or Martin, and ask us questions regarding, you know, either they wanted help or, you know, it provided a way for us to talk to our attendees. And also we were kind of proactive about it too. We would kind of see if we saw someone really stuck, we could pop in and be like, oh, you know, have you thought about this type of thing? And so, yeah, it definitely provided a nice way for us to talk to our customers.
And good engagement. Fantastic. With this, we have room for one final question, and it's from Sean. And Sean is asking, what is your advice to others who might be considering using Instruct for their events or conferences?
Yeah, we could probably go on. We could give you a lot of advice, wanted or unwanted, but I'll say I think the most I'd say there was what I learned a lot using Instruct was how important the actual crafting of the game was, because when we first had these games at Next, we made a lot of changes during the conference because we learned so much about where users were stuck. We made all of the challenges way easier. So, you know, when you can learn from our mistakes and just make sure that you, or you know, just in general, it's good to observe how users are playing these games and make small adjustments to help them through. Because what we found is that so like you mentioned, there's a lot going on at these conferences. There's a lot of things to pull their attention away. And so you really want to focus on making these games engaging and also make them as usable as possible to help, to keep their users engaged. And you know, part of that might have been just because we're engineers, we're not game developers, but I assume most of the people that are going to be writing these Instruct games are going to be similar to us, and it's great and it's easy to do, and it's not like you have to be a game developer, but you know, definitely pay attention to the way that your attendees play these games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brent, Martin, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your experiences with the Instruct platform and the way that you use them at your events with the arcades. You know, you've been with us as an early adopter from almost the beginning, and we're very grateful for the support and for just your enthusiasm of the way that you're utilizing and actually helping us improve the platform as we go forward. So thank you both so much for your time.
It's definitely been great working with y'all as well. I mean, after the video you saw of Cloud Next, we ended up taking these machines to 20 different conferences, 20 plus different conferences. So clearly we saw the value in having these at our conferences, and we're very, very thrilled to you know, bring them everywhere we could.
It's been fun, and thanks to you two for iterating and like working on our feedback. I know that a bunch of features were developed thanks to or based on our request, and we wanted to thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, again, thank you so much. And for the audience that joined us, we'd also like to thank you. We hope that you've enjoyed this very interesting and passionate discussion about how Google is using the arcade and the arcade environment. So with that, we wish you all a great rest of your day. Before you leave, you're going to see a short 1-minute survey. Please take the time to fill it in. And as I said before, you'll be getting a copy of the recording and all of the with all the questions and things that we shared today. So again, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you again in the future. Hey, Brent. Hey, Martin. Thanks again. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you for having us.